The following is a Just Green production brought to you by the Might Be News Network.
What up, everybody? It's the week of September 3rd, 2018. My name is Taylor Cooper. This might be sports on the MBN Network. Check us out on mbnnetwork.com. With me, as always, Kevin Reevey. What up, Kevin?
Are you ready for some football?
Oh my God, it's football week. I'm so pumped up. College football happened this past weekend, and now it's fucking NFL time.
I am so pumped down for minor league football. I couldn't care less.
It was a busy weekend for college, baby. It was nuts. I watched some of it. It was a busy weekend in general, but I caught some of it.
I watched none of it.
None.
I
Zero?
heard half the teams lost.
Approximately
Crazy.
half the teams lost that played this weekend.
That's nuts.
Actually, exactly half the teams lost. With us this week, we have a special guest, Andrew Dececco. What's up, man?
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Good. Thanks for being on with us tonight.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself? You do a bunch of awesome things. What do you got?
So I write for the Eagles Wire. It's part of USA Today, SMG, NFL Wire format. I've done everything from interviews to unique Q&A. I did a Q&A a few weeks ago with a guy from the Sandlot who is he's a big Eagles fan. So I kind of got to hear his perspective on things, and I've done interviews with DeAndre Carter and Bruce Hector, and they both made the 53-man roster. So
that's awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Did you get into it with him? Like, is there going to be a Sandlot 2? Don't you feel like there's
I didn't really talk
Sandlot buzz right now?
I didn't really talk
Not
the
much
Sandlot
Sandlot
with
stuff.
him. No, not really.
It was a cool interview. I did read. Well, I guess I just admit I didn't read all of it because I don't remember there being
thanks.
a lot of Sandlot 2 stuff. But I do remember reading the article. Well, I mean, specifically the stuff because I was really interested in like him being an Eagles fan and all that kind of stuff. And apparently, I guess he's out in L.A. and there's an Eagles bar out there where you watch the game, and that's pretty awesome.
That's great.
But there should be a Sandlot 2.
I feel like in 2018, a Sandlot 2 would be all girls playing softball. No?
No, but I mean...
That's what they did with the Ghostbusters, right? Am I wrong?
But I want the original cast.
Oh, God, like a reunion thing?
That's not a bad idea. I'll have to shoot Victor a text about that.
There's a lot of buzz around it, though, now.
That would be awesome.
20 years, and just on Twitter alone, there's a lot of Sandlot talk. And it's one of those trendy things where, like, kids are wearing the Hambino shirt. What's his line in that? Besides,
You're killing me, Smalls.
The great Hambino,
yeah.
And I still do the cannonball thing when I jump in.
Oh yeah. And like the scene, all the scenes at the pool were classic. Like everything about that movie is classic. I feel like they did like a whole Major League Baseball like tour this year, didn't they? They went to a lot of stadiums together this year.
They did, and they're actually coming to Philly in October to do their tour. So I'm hoping to catch up with Victor there and kind of talk some Eagles with him, and who knows, maybe go to the Eagles-Panthers game, something like that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Which character was he?
He was Timmy Timmons, the older brother, the one who his younger brother kept repeating him.
Yeah, what was his? He had a famous line in that. I can't remember what it was.
The Colossus of Clout.
Oh yeah, the Colossus of Clout.
Yes. Oh man, that's awesome.
Great.
So you write about the Eagles all the time. What do you think about the Eagles? I mean, are you excited for this week? Obviously, you are. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen this season?
I'm very excited for this week. I think the team's going to go 12-4, 11-5. Probably there's some inconsistencies going on with like they've missed a lot of guys in and out of the lineup this summer. I think Mac Hollins this morning they said that he suffered a setback. He won't be playing.
Right.
Alshon's not playing. They just re-signed Marcus Wheaton this morning, so he's going to be probably playing, and his contract's guaranteed for the year since he signed before week 1. So he'll be playing. DeAndre Carter will probably be playing a little special teams and probably some slot receiver. So Nick Foles is going to be working with some guys he hasn't gotten a lot of reps with lately.
How's Mike Wallace look?
Mike Wallace looks really in practice. He's looked good. Like I saw him at the open practice, and he was burning everybody. But in the preseason, he's been kind of quiet. He hasn't gotten a lot of looks. I guess he's going to need to step it up. Shelton Gibson's going to be starting this week opposite from him, and I think he's in for a big year.
I feel like they went ultra conservative in the preseason. I didn't see any real flashy plays. I didn't see any real creative plays. I didn't really see anything surprising at all. And certainly no like run pass options or anything like that. I mean, overall preseason was very underwhelming, I guess, but in terms of like the past few years, like we talked about it last week, Kev, that we won a bunch of preseason games these past few years, but we didn't win any Super Bowls. So Cleveland won all their preseason games last year and haven't won a game they've won one game in 2 years or something. But it just looked really underwhelming. I know that Doug P's been stressed out about people asking about Carson and stuff, which I can dig that. What do you think about Carson Wentz? When do you think he'll be back?
I think they're going to start him at home, and I think it'll probably be possibly the Colts game is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I think it's September 23rd. And I think
you're right.
I think we'll start that. I think we'll start that week. I just get the sense that they're not going to start him on the road.
And I like it. I don't want him to rush back. I don't want it to be an RG3 situation. I want Carson Wentz to be here for a long time because I truthfully feel he could be the future of this league. I mean, he could be a big name in this league. He already is, and he's barely really played. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I think that what's his name? What's his name down there in Jacksonville? Ramsey?
Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah,
yes.
He gave him some credit. Him and Deshaun Watson. He was like, those guys are going to be MVPs in the next couple of years. And he's trashing everybody else.
And you got to remember, Wentz would have been MVP last year had he not gotten hurt against the Rams.
I agree. He was on his way to the MVP.
It's easy to forget. Everybody has a short memory. Right now, everyone's trashing. I don't know if everyone's trashing Foles, but everyone seems to have this sense of negativity.
Yeah, I agree.
Obviously, he didn't win the Super Bowl last week. It's been a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Time's gone by. The most recent example of how good Foles has been preseason games. For what they mean, who knows?
Right.
But it hasn't been good. But who was good in the preseason when it's all we had to judge them on? Sam Bradford. He was great.
Yeah.
Looked like an all-star against the Packers in the first week 2 years ago.
We couldn't wait to run him out, and he was garbage.
He was garbage.
Season. So, Nick Foles, and I'm trying to pull up the stats here in the playoffs. Give me a second here. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to pull up his
the first game of last year, he didn't do that great in the playoffs.
It was the 15-10 game against Atlanta.
Yep.
I remember I was at that game, and the first play of the game, he chucked it up for Torrey Smith, and it hit the wind, and it just fell down, and we all looked around, and we were just like, oh, no.
Yeah.
It was so cold that day.
It was.
The wind was brutal.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Here's why I'm pulling up the stats here, the game logs for last year. He didn't have that bad a game.
No.
Everyone forgets.
No, he was all right.
He was 23 of 30 for 246 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions.
Yeah, that's not a bad day.
That's a 76% completion percentage, 100.1 QB rating, and he had a bad game?
Right.
If you guys remember, he kind of hit his stride right before the half when he threw that ball. It hit Keanu Neal, the safety from the Falcons. It hit his knee pad, bounced in the air, and Torrey Smith caught it and kind of took off for some yards there.
I remember that. Yes.
Ever since then, he really hit his stride, and we all know the rest how the rest of the story goes.
I really wish that I could just go back right now and just rewatch all the playoff games from last year. They were just so exciting. That Minnesota game was outrageous. The way that Minnesota beat New Orleans, right? That was the miracle of their postseason. The way that game unfolded, because I was legit scared of going up against either one of those teams because they were both playing really good football. You never really want to see Drew Brees in the playoffs. That's just Drew Brees. But Minnesota, I was bugging about their defense, and Nick Foles picked them apart. We destroyed Minnesota last year in the playoffs. It was embarrassing. All of those people that came and doing the stupid skull chant on the steps of the art museum should be ashamed of themselves. I hope they never forget the ass whooping.
And the best part about it is we won the Super Bowl in their stadium.
Yes.
They had to clean out their lockers, and make room for the Eagles.
Yes.
Nick Foles had in my opinion, three great playoff games. The first, statistically, on the surface, doesn't look that great.
Right.
He outplayed Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan was somewhere along the line. I just looked at the stats a second ago. My memory is not great, short term that is. 22 of 36, I think it said, 210 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. That's at least on par with what Nick Foles did. Yeah. And no one's dogging Matt Ryan.
Let me ask you a serious question, both of you.
Sure.
Do you think that Matt Ryan is overrated?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he could be. He had an amazing year the season before.
I mean, without like
kind of
Julio,
inconsistent last year.
Without Julio, I feel like he'd be very average.
I don't think he's a quarterback that can elevate the guys around him.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nervous energy in Atlanta right now over how they're going to play, and it's all based around Julio.
Yeah.
He seems to be the glue that keeps everything together on that team. The fact that he's working out with Terrell Owens kind of has some people nervous.
Yeah.
That's
you can
true.
See why. Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, we'll see how it goes. And the first game of the season even doesn't necessarily mean anything.
No, it
the
doesn't.
Chiefs came out hot last year, and they were the number 1 team on everyone's power rankings, and then they fell hard and fast. So we'll see. I just think right now this is a playoff game for Nick Foles, and we know what Nick Foles does for playoff games.
Right.
He's playing for his career right now.
He is.
It's a big game for him, and I feel very good about him in big games.
I feel great about this week, honestly. And somebody asked me about my expectations for the season, kind of in regard to just being like, well, if the Eagles don't do great this year, do they get a pass from you because they won the Super Bowl? And I wouldn't say that they get a pass, but I'm certainly way more stress-free right now than I feel like I would be if they lost the Super Bowl last year, right? I feel like I'm just kind of, fuck it. We're the champs. Like, we're the champs. I don't know. I just feel good about it. I feel like we're going to lose some games this year, but I don't care. I don't care if we lose week 1.
I think it'll be all right with most people as long as they play with effort.
Yeah. Yeah, which they're going to. I think that, I mean, we were talking a little bit about Doug P. and his attitude recently. I was kind of concerned because I felt like Doug P. was almost like with the Julio thing you're saying. I feel like he's the glue. He's this ultimate player coach. These guys love to play for him. Every other word out of his mouth is these guys. I do this for these guys, and as long as these guys like this, whatever. He gets ice cream at the end of every practice and all that stuff. Like, he's just like this player's coach. So I was worried a little bit, like hoping that, I don't know, maybe success wasn't getting to his head or something stupid like that. But it doesn't seem like it. He came out pretty level-headed today. I just think, he's stressed out. He was coaching high school football 3 years ago, right? Isn't that what he was doing?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm a Doug P. guy. I have been since they brought him in. There was just something about him. I was like, I like this guy. Going from Chip to him, ultimate upgrade in my opinion.
But the media is doing its best job to try to drive a wedge there.
Yeah.
Because for a short period of time there last week, it was, Doug Peterson versus the media a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, a head coach can criticize the media. But who criticizes? The media is going to fight back. Who do we go to as an arbiter in that situation? All we're hearing from is the media.
Right.
So all I'm hearing is everyone defend themselves basically against Doug Peterson or defend their colleagues. I think it's bullshit. I think Doug Peterson had every right to snap at these. It's a barrage of comments where he's answering it the same way over and over and over.
Right.
And the media is saying, we have to ask. It's for the fans.
Right.
No, screw that. It's not.
It's not.
You want the scoop. This is all about you and your job. And
I want to be
that.
the first person to report
but
what I'm saying.
Don't lie and say it's about the fans. It's not.
Yeah, they shouldn't have said that, and I do agree with most of what you're saying, but they're trying to do their job as well. Like, every day they're supposed to ask that question to see if any new updates or anything new comes up, and they could have done it, like, Les Bowen kind of went about it in a little snarky way that I'm sure kind of rubbed him the wrong way, but they were just doing their jobs.
Oh, absolutely, and this would be more along the lines of something you would do, Andrew, than, like, for me, I'm not reporter. I don't really do interviews or anything like that. I, sit back in my free time and, write long form stuff. So, it's not really in my wheelhouse. If that was something along my job description, maybe I would be more offended by that kind of thing. But also, I think I could look at it kind of objectively and say, enough is enough. And let's be honest about what's going on here. We don't need to know. Ask the question, and when it's answered, we're good.
Yeah.
If the head coach says, when he's cleared to play, he's cleared to play. I don't need 10 follow-ups on that asking the same thing. They're looking for a gotcha. They're looking for him to accidentally answer it a certain way.
Oh, I mean, me personally,
job.
I wouldn't have asked the question if I was sitting in that room. That's just not my. That's not how I would go about it. I would let somebody else kind of step forward and get the brunt of it a little bit.
Take that heat a little, yeah.
It's just, I think it's hilarious how every time I turn on sports talk, it's just they're to some differing levels of degrees. It's just they're either are totally against Doug Peterson, or they're like, I'm a little disappointed.
Right.
Nobody's on his side with this because they all have to defend each other. It's just weird. I don't know.
Well, one of my pet peeves in life is like, I personally, I don't like repeating myself if I can help it. Once or twice, fine. But 5 days a week, the next week, and the next week, and the next week, it's like, dude, I told you I don't know.
Yeah, I think that would irritate just about anybody.
And they're comparing him to Belichick in that way.
And I was just about to say,
unfair.
So all of that shit sells, right? You get Popovich on a candid interview. Everybody, it's going to go viral. You get Bill Belichick next week, next question, or whatever. I'm just looking at this week. Those are viral moments that people go back, and ESPN gets millions of views on their Instagram or whatever just from that. And the same thing happened to Doug P, because it's just like, well, we're not used to seeing this guy who's 99% of the time all happy-go-lucky kind of snap like that. So it was just kind of this moment where that kind of thing sells, I think. And that's why it's just gotten so blown out of proportion. And I tell you what, I haven't been able to listen to our local sports talk radio in like 2 weeks. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I'm tired of hearing the same thing every single day.
Until it starts, I just can't do it. Like, no disrespect. Mike Missinelli, he's a legend in the area. But, like, he does this thing that drives me nuts, and I don't know if either of you have caught this. But if you listen to him, like, every day, he'll say something, for example, like last year, Nick Foles can't do this. He can't win. He can't win. And then he wins in Atlanta. We beat Minnesota. He's like, all right, yeah, he could do it. And then after the Super Bowl, he's like, I always knew he could do it. And it's like, wait a minute, dude. Like, you didn't know that. Like,
that's something that drives me crazy.
It's crazy.
It's easy to say, oh, I know he could do it after he's already done it, but like thinking that everybody's going to forget what you already said. But I can't stick to an opinion and let it be what it is.
Be wrong. If you're wrong, just be wrong. Like, talk about a great thing to be wrong about, right? I mean, shit. I didn't think that Nick Foles was going to win the Super Bowl. I didn't think he was going to do that. I didn't bring the panic button out until that Atlanta game, when I was like, that was kind of ugly. Like, I just don't know. I think Minnesota's going to wipe the floor with us in our own place. That's what I thought. I did. And I'm not afraid to admit it, because I was wrong. But what a great thing to be wrong about. Because then after that game, it's just like, holy shit, 2 weeks, we're in the Super Bowl. This is fucking nuts. And then a week later, it's just like, we're fucking playing New England in the Super Bowl. This is either the greatest thing ever or the worst thing ever.
The best kept secret in local sports talk radio is that, it's the perception that these guys have like rock solid opinions that they don't move off of. And it's totally false.
Right.
They form their opinions pretty much that morning based on, okay, what's going to get people calling? What's going to get people talking?
Right.
And I don't think it's unfair. I like Angelo Cataldi, but I know for a fact that's what he does.
Yes.
And that's how he talks on the radio. It's certainly how he tweets. His tweets are pointed, incredibly opinionated right when the show starts. I mean, he kind of poked fun at it today. He had a tweet saying something along the lines of, I think the Phillies are screwed, the Eagles are screwed. the whole 9 yards. And at the end, he was like, come at me, bro. Something along those lines.
Yeah. Call me.
Yeah. I'm paraphrasing, but he was basically saying, I know these opinions are insane and you're going to yell at me. Perfect. That's what I want.
That's exactly what he wanted.
Everybody's going back to work today from the long weekend. You need something entertaining to listen to.
It's so infuriating. You can get away with that. Nobody realized you can get away with that on local sports talk. Why? Who has a DVR in their car?
Right.
No one's going back and checking this stuff.
Right.
No one's recording it.
Right.
These guys literally change their opinions all the time.
Because if you call them out on it, they're like, what are you talking about? Boop. Hang up.
Yeah.
This guy's crazy.
And again, exactly. It goes back to what's their job. Their job
Right.
is not to have these perfectly formed opinions and put on an entertaining show. I mean, it kind of is, but the bottom line is the bottom line. It's to bring in ratings.
Right.
The bottom line is like the literal bottom line, the money they bring in. So it's not so much about, putting on an entertaining show, being authentic, quote unquote. It's about being controversial. I think they went way too far with Josh Innocent. Now we're getting like way too local with this stuff. We should probably move on to a more broad spectrum,
actually,
but they went a little too far with the controversial stuff.
I agree.
But it's still always going to be a part of local sports talk because, again, everybody has a short memory because you can't go back.
Can't. Yep. And they won't even let you remember anyway. Like I said, they'll just hang up on you.
But speaking of like a broader perspective, we're talking too much Eagles and Philly stuff.
Well, we only have Andrew for the first segment too, the first half. I wanted to ask you a little bit more NFL stuff.
Absolutely.
That's what you specialize in, right? So what surprises do you think we're going to see this year? Not necessarily from the Birds, but like, is there a team? Is there a sleeper team that you think is going to drastically improve from last year?
I think the Houston Texans are going to be a team to watch in the AFC. I think they were 4-12 last year, but they're getting Deshaun Watson back. They're getting Whitney Merciless back. They're getting J.J. Watt back.
Yep.
I think they're going to be a team to watch. Jacksonville was there last year. They were 10-6. I think they're going to be a team that's in play. I think the Patriots are always there. And then when you look at the NFC, I don't think there's a team that's going to get more than 13 wins. I think the NFC is going to be very competitive. I think you're going to see a team like the Saints, the Packers, the Vikings, the Eagles, and the Rams that are all going to be there in contention. And I think the Rams, when it's all said and done, are going to be there with the Eagles at the end in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, I think so. They made a lot of improvements this year in the offseason, it feels like.
They went 11-5 last year. They added Brandon Cooks, Aqib Talib, Marcus Peters, Ndamukong Suh.
Yep.
Sean McVay will be in his second year, and Jared Goff threw for 3,800 yards last year, 28 touchdowns, and Todd Gurley had 1,300 yards last year. So they have pieces there. Robert Woods is a good receiver, so I think they'll be right there at the end with the Eagles.
I agree. They definitely showed some flashes last year that made them look like a pretty interesting team. And McVay, I mean, he's another one of those players coaches. I mean, we've been seeing some things out in Oakland with Gruden. Khalil Mack got traded to the Bears.
Yeah,
that was shocking to me. And when they interviewed Gruden, it's just like, who cares? He wanted more money. We didn't want to give it to him. And I mean, he's getting paid what, like $100 million?
He said it. I think he said something like Khalil Mack's making way more than what we were willing to pay him. I was like, well, I would hope so because you just dealt him.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, what did you think about that trade? Do you think it was stupid, smart?
I thought it was pretty dumb on a team that needed all the help they can get on defense to get rid of one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, just to kind of make a point that we're not going to pay him. I don't really see that. They're a pretty old team, and he was one of the younger members of that team and a cornerstone. So it kind of just didn't make sense to me. That's easily the dumbest thing I've seen all week. I feel bad for the fans out there. Like they're not even going to be in town for much longer. They're going to Vegas soon. I have a friend who's a Raiders fan. I haven't even talked to him yet about it, but I mean, I can only imagine what the vibe's like over there.
I have a Raiders fan buddy who always talks trash to me all the time, and as soon as I saw that, what was it, Saturday morning, I guess is when it was finalized or almost done. I sent him the Instagram post. It was like, dude, fuck you. Your team doesn't even have a defense. Like, it's gone. But
I kind of wanted to hear your thought, like how you think the NFC East is going to fare this year. If you had to give if you given it any thoughts for as far as predictions.
I'm going Eagles, Giants, probably Cowboys, then Redskins. I probably would say. I like
that's exactly how I have it too. I have the Eagles at 12-4. I have the Giants at 9-7. I have the Cowboys at 8-8, and I have the Redskins at 6-10.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I think it's a very hard division to call right now. I think everybody has their own horse. Some people, they're trying to pick against the Eagles, which makes sense. I mean, it's hard to repeat. A lot of times after winning it all, you'll have a season after, which is, I think lately we look at the Patriots and Steelers, these kind of teams, like they seem to consistently play well over a long period of time, but the Seahawks most recently, but there does seem to be that feeling, at least with the Eagles. They don't have experience winning the Super Bowl. We don't know what to expect right now. It's very trendy, especially in a division with the Giants and Cowboys, very much, a visible team on the national scale. They're very trendy picks right now.
Yeah.
The Cowboys, I don't really understand it. Dak Prescott, if you look at his last 10 games, we might have gotten into this last week. Not good.
He exposed himself last year.
Not good at all.
And you got to think, his receivers are Allen Hurns and Cole Beasley. They have a tight end named Rico Gathers, who was supposed to be their starter, probably is, but he just got suspended for weed, or he just got caught for weed on cut down day, and they kept him. So like they don't have a whole lot of options, is what I'm saying. Like they're sticking with somebody like that. Like he doesn't have, besides Ezekiel Elliott and that offensive line, I really have no idea how they're going to score their points.
Here's two guys that played last year: Jay Cutler, Dak Prescott. One is currently a reality star on the show Very Cavallari on the E! Network. One is a starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. Their last 10 games, if you match them up, I talked about this on Twitter. Unfortunately, I should be more prepared and have this pulled up.
Oh, no, you wanted to do this last week. Yes.
I like this comparison.
Their last 10 games, and I'll get these numbers after the break. Jay Cutler outperformed Dak Prescott. And he's not the only one. We're talking Brock Osweiler, like a bunch of guys that are borderline either just barely holding on to the league or they're out.
Yeah, or just straight garbage in general.
We're looking at Dak Prescott's rookie year, and we're thinking that's the real deal.
Right.
But that's not what we thought about guys like Vince Young. There's a laundry list of talents at quarterback that came in strong, and they're out of the league.
Yeah. Yep.
So I don't know if I could pick the Cowboys right now. They're a trendy pick. Doesn't make sense to me. The Giants, I think, might be the most entertaining team in football. I'm really I hate the Giants. Really looking forward to seeing them play. They have an unbelievable amount of talent. And I was saying the other day, they might have the most talented tight end outside of Rob Gronkowski.
Evan Ingram? Yeah, Evan Ingram's great.
Nobody's talking about, he had over 700 yards receiving in his rookie year last year.
Wow.
They got Odell Beckham coming back.
And you got the generational talent in Saquon Barkley and
Sterling Shepard.
They got Sterling Shepard. They got Nate Solder to protect Eli's blind side, and they have some pieces.
That's
on
the only
defense.
problem is that they have Eli.
Yeah.
Now I think he could be serviceable. It's hard to tell because he's right around the age now where Peyton Manning became completely useless.
Yeah.
But also he had that neck thing, so who knows? Eli couldn't be more different from his brother in that respect. Eli just doesn't get hurt.
He just doesn't get hurt, and he's made a career out of being mediocre, in my opinion. You see like flashes of like just straight luck with him. David Tyree, all that stuff. So like Eli to me, and he always has that dumb face where he's just like, I don't know what I'm doing at all.
And that's why they're so entertaining. It's going to be feast or famine every week, and I can't wait.
So I don't know that Eli Manning will even finish the season like healthy, and I know that his successor was Davis Webb. I think they just released him, and I think we'll see Kyle Lauletta from Richmond. I think he'll eventually end up playing the last few games of the season because you just don't know what you're going to get out of Eli.
This is why Andrew's awesome because he knows he's literally the best guy at knowing these fringe guys on the roster.
Oh, that's awesome.
Who would know?
I think he was their third round pick. They hope that he's going to take over, and if their season goes south, I think you might see him sooner than later.
That never works though. Whenever you draft a quarterback that late, it never works. If we're talking sports are all about analytics nowadays.
Yeah.
Why even waste a pick in the third or fourth round? It so rarely seems to work out.
You're right.
I mean, it seems to rarely work out with any quarterback you draft. But specifically, I mean, even we're talking, Dak Prescott was this huge bargain.
Right.
Is he? We don't know what he is anymore.
Right.
Well, Russell Wilson and I guess you could say Nick Foles are probably the only couple that I could think of off the top of my head. Well, Brady.
Yeah, Brady too. Yeah, what was he, a fifth rounder or something?
He was sixth round pick.
Pick.
And of
That's
course,
so crazy.
There are tons of examples, but
and it's
few and far between. Russell Wilson and Tom Brady, there's a decade plus between those two draft picks.
Well, and with Brady, it's not even he played for a bum college team. He well-known Michigan Wolverine. You would think that he'd be way up there. It's just Brady, that part of it's crazy to me. I guess you could call him the GOAT in some respects. I don't know. I don't fuck with Brady at all, really.
I'm interested to hear if you guys have any bold predictions for the Eagles. Then I'm going to go ahead and give mine.
Bold predictions.
Could be from players that you think are going to break out on offense or defense, record, or...
I had this crazy bold prediction where it was a few weeks ago where my prediction was that Foles, this was before the preseason started, that Foles would play so well that there would literally be a quarterback controversy. This was my Angelo Cataldi sports talk radio, get people talking and stuff we might have a controversy on our hands. But it seems unrealistic, but there is, especially with how inaccurate he was during the preseason, but there is a possibility. Let's throw it out there. Let's say that they are going to wait an extra long time. Longer than we thought. Already, a lot of people thought that Carson Wentz was going to play week 1.
Right.
Now we're not sure. So now we don't even know about week 2 or week 3. Let's say it goes to the bye week, and their plan is to get him to the game after the bye week, to get him 1 full week with no game, to get him extra prepared for the game after. Let's say that was the plan. I think, what's their bye week? The Eagles' bye week offhand?
Off the top of my head,
I think it's right around week 6 or 7.
I think you're right. I think it's week 6.
So if he had 6 games, if Foles had 6 games, what if he has 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, QB rating 110, 70% completion percentage? How can you sit him? Literally, how do you do it?
Because you've invested so much in Carson Wentz.
If Carson Wentz wasn't the future of the franchise, I wouldn't.
Has that ever been done? In the history of the NFL, had that I know for a fact that scenario would never play out. A reigning Super Bowl MVP, then coming back and being one of the best quarterbacks in the league through 6 games. There's no way you could bench him. I don't think you could bench him. I don't think you trade Carson, but I think you
ride that wave.
You ride that wave.
Right.
Real quick, I want to give my prediction. I think the Eagles win 23-17. And my offensive breakout player for 2018 is Corey Clement. Last year, he had 74 carries for 321 yards and 4 touchdowns and had 2 receiving touchdowns. This year, I have him somewhere around 165 carries. LeGarrette Blount had 173, I believe. I have him getting 685 on the ground, 6 rushing touchdowns leading the team, and 3 receiving touchdowns. And defensive player breakout, I have Camus Grugier-Hill. He runs a 4.5, and I think he's going to be a tremendous asset in coverage and probably lead the team in tackles or be among the team leaders in tackles. And I think you're going to see him step up, Sidney Jones, and I think Ronald Darby's going to have a big year as well.
Yeah, those are good. Well, I guess real quick before we go on break, I'll say that this year I think that Carson Wentz, comeback player of the year, and I think that we're going to get all the awards that we should have gotten last year. Coach of the year, MVP, boom. I think that Carson Wentz is going to come back and stay healthy. I think that Doug P is the best coach in the league. Not obviously he's not better winning percentage than a lot of people. Belichick, blah 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 blah. But I just think he's the new wave. I think that this Eagles team is the new wave, and like he said, it's the new norm. I really hope he's right. Andrew Dececco, thanks so much for being with us this week, man.
I had a blast. I'd love to come back.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to do this again for sure.
Yeah.
Me and Kevin Reevy will be right back after this. Hey, it's Taylor Cooper,
co-host Kev.
And I'm co-host Dan. I have to bring something up that's been bugging the shit out of me about your wedding.
What?
You've known me a long time.
Yeah.
All right?
You've known both of us a long time.
You've known Kev a long time.
Fucking radio show together.
Yeah.
We are your brothers.
Correct.
Why the fuck was I in the corner?
Yo, both of us.
We were the furthest away from the bar. We were the furthest away from the food. It was like, I'm just going to put you guys in the corner because I don't want to see you.
Check out Might Be News on mbnnetwork.com. Also, SoundCloud and iTunes. New episodes every Monday. And welcome back to Might Be Sports. I'm Taylor Cooper. With me, Kevin Reevy. What's up, Kevin Reevy?
Yellow.
Special shout out to Andrew Dececco for being on the show with us. Very insightful. That was great. It was a great talk.
Yeah, I touched on Dak Prescott. I said I was going to bring up his stats. His last 10 career NFL starts. I did like a deep dive on those. Really interesting. So the last 10 career starts for Dak Prescott and Jay Cutler, they averaged exactly, each one of them averaged exactly 189.8 passing yards per game.
Okay.
So that's not good.
Not good.
For Dak Prescott to compare that exactly with Jay Cutler. And of course, it's a little bit slighted because we're not including, rushing stats, any of that. But, if we're talking about a quarterback, passing yards, touchdowns, those kind of things matter, interceptions. The last 10 career NFL starts for Dak Prescott, 190 yards per game, 8 touchdowns, 9 interceptions.
Ugh.
So now, all right, so we're getting 190, 8, and 9. Mike Glennon, his last 10, 235, 13, and 10. Brock Osweiler, 186, 11, and 12. So there's two guys right there that threw more touchdown passes in their last 10 starts than Dak Prescott. Brock Osweiler and Mike Glennon, two fringe quarterbacks. We go Brett Hundley, the guy who replaced Aaron Rodgers when he went down. 187, 8, and 9. That's almost exactly the same numbers.
Yeah.
Again, Prescott, 190, 8, and 9. Brett Hundley, 187, 8, and 9. And then Brian Hoyer, 230, 8, and 4. These are guys, Brian Hoyer, Brett Hundley, Brock Osweiler, Mike Glennon, Jay Cutler. I'm not really, swaying the stats. I obviously have a motive here to say, Dak Prescott is not as good as we think. But these are basic stats.
Yeah.
Passing yards per game, touchdowns, interceptions. 10 games. That's not a small sample size.
Right.
He's got 2 years in the NFL, 10 games. He could have played a total possible 32 games. 10. That's 1/3 of his NFL career.
Yeah.
I'm throwing out there right now. So just wanted to touch on that.
No, that's
insane.
valid. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy because I feel like when Dak came into the league, obviously year one, everybody's like, "Whoa, this guy's good." And like we said, I think we talked about it last week, where when Zeke went out, when he was suspended, he really exposed himself as an average at best quarterback, in my opinion. And so my question for you is that if the Cowboys don't make the playoffs, which I don't believe that they will, do they finally fire Jason Garrett?
I think they have to. He's the guy in Dallas right now.
Yeah.
His job has never really seemed... It's one of those interesting things. I think a trend right now in NFL ownership is sometimes they have their guy and they're not going to fire him.
Right.
They don't care what anyone says. I own the team. This is my head coach. That's the end of it.
What's his name? Hugh Jackson in Cleveland?
You look at Hugh Jackson, the situation in... not Baltimore. The Bengals in Cincinnati.
Yes.
He's been there for 10 years.
Right. And they've been garbage for 10 years.
And I think he's a good coach. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
He seems like a good guy. Like these guys, like Hugh Jackson, like they seem like good guys.
Yeah. Have you been watching Hard Knocks at all?
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. They make the Browns look so good.
They
make
might
the Browns
be.
look so good.
But it's one of those things too. Like, and we were talking with Andrew about how good the Rams look on paper, and in some respects, the Browns also look good on paper. This could be like when Vince Young said about the 2010 Eagles, somewhere around there, 11, 12, the dream team, his famous dream team quote, where the Eagles brought in all these free agents and they have the quote unquote dream team. I think that's a thing in the NFL where you bring in free agents, they don't click right away, if at all.
Right.
So they do look great on paper. I think the Browns actually look great on paper. The Rams look better on paper.
Yeah.
But I could see either one of those teams being 8-8.
Right.
Just because it takes a while. It doesn't matter. I mean, the Eagles brought in Nnamdi Asomugha, who was supposed to be one of the best cornerbacks in the league. Just didn't fit. And whether he quit, whether he was done, or was just not a fit with that team, didn't work. And it was over. So you never know. I don't like free agents jumping teams, and all we remember is what they did with their former team. It depends on fit more than any other sport, I think.
I agree.
So, I mean, we'll see.
So we're both excited for football. And obviously next week we'll have plenty to talk about with football. But moving on a little bit, real quick, before we talk about Tiger Woods, I just wanted to ramble off the current top 10 teams in college football. We touched on it. I know you're not a huge college guy, but there was some pretty crazy games this weekend. LSU trounced Miami, which was outrageous to see. But our top 10 right now, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, Wisconsin at 5, Oklahoma, Auburn, Notre Dame, I don't get it. Washington, Stanford rounds out the top 10. Penn State was in the top 10, but they had a lot of trouble with Appalachian State over the weekend. They went into overtime with literally a no-name squad at home. It was a wild game. Like, Appalachian State was more or less trashing them early on, and Penn State had to fight hard to even remain a factor in that game. It was wild.
Yeah, it's bad when you're a ranked team and you lose to a team that literally sounds like it's like a trade school for lumberjacks.
Yeah, it basically is. I mean, they played their hearts out. It was a really good game. It was a good opening weekend of college football. What I don't like about opening weekends of college football is that that Penn State game should have been a blowout. There were a lot of blowouts this weekend. Hawkeyes blew out. I forget who they even played because they were nobodies. That's what I mean. It's a lot of really good teams playing a bunch of really bad teams opening weekend. Pretty much. It's just like, hey, watch a bunch of blowout games. You get a couple good ones. But I don't know, but it was entertaining. It was basically background noise for me this weekend, though. But so Tiger Woods is in the news for non-golf related activities, and it's not him banging a bunch of ladies either. Why don't you explain?
I just don't like it when the news makes itself.
Well, what happened?
Well, here's what happened. Tiger Woods playing golf, doing his job. You know, you could ask him whatever you want. If you're a reporter, you can ask him. He was asked a loaded question. I think I have the quote here. It says, the reporter asked, or he commented, at times, especially 2018, I think a lot of people, especially immigrants, are threatened by him and his policy, talking about Donald Trump. What do you say to people who might find it interesting that you have a friendly relationship with him? So Tiger responded, well, I've known Donald for a number of years. We've played golf together. We've had dinner together. I've known him pre-presidency, obviously during his presidency. And everyone was focused on the line, you have to respect the office. Tiger Woods said you have to respect the office. He was doing his best to avoid this question.
Yeah.
He didn't ask for this. It's a loaded question. It's a bullshit question.
For sure.
Because there's no way out.
Right.
He either lies or he speaks the uncomfortable truth. Either way, you're going to get killed. So he does his best to navigate this question best he can.
Right.
So, of course, Max Kellerman on First Take on ESPN, big surprise, just goes off. Literally, Max Kellerman literally says he's angry by his response. Which part? That Tiger Woods said, you must respect the office. So
Right.
Max Kellerman, because he's grasping at straws.
Yes.
He hates the president so much, and whatever your politics are, whatever.
Yeah.
But come on, at ESPN, you have to know that, and I know for a fact, they're worried. Their numbers are going down. They have to appeal to the middle more than they are.
Yes.
And Max Kellerman, he doesn't live in the middle. He's out there. So he's grasping at straws here. The best he can do is grab onto you must respect the office. It's just a matter of speech.
Right.
So Tiger's saying he respects the presidency. Period. End of discussion.
Right.
Like, Max Kellerman is angry because how could you respect this man?
He didn't even come out and say, you have to respect Trump as president. You just have to respect the office.
How about you should respect Tiger and how he answered the question?
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
And then Stephen A. Smith, which was such a weird response, I thought, because he comes back and he literally says, Tiger is not black. And it's almost not even out of context. He said he's Camblin Asian, and I'm not exactly well read on what exactly that means. I think it's a combination. I think might be a direct quote for how Tiger describes himself.
Right.
Either way, it seems like when ESPN is throwing out a clear set of rules for their on-air talent on what they can say and what they can tweet, it's a weird thing for a guy to say Tiger's not black.
Yeah, it's a really slippery slope, and realistically, like Stephen A. Not that he shouldn't be allowed to say that, but that's certainly not the right way to respond to this. I mean, we were talking a little bit off air about this, and I'm not a Trump guy. You could just go to my Facebook to find out how I feel about some things. But I don't care that Tiger Woods has played golf with Donald Trump. I don't care that Tom Brady had a MAGA hat in his locker. Like, what did I say earlier? Oh, that some players are probably playing music that's offensive to somebody else in the locker room. You know, somebody playing gangster rap or something, and somebody that likes country doesn't want to listen to that shit before the game. You know, like, I kind of see it like that. It's not necessarily the greatest comparison, but in this moment, like, are you going to let your politics get in the way of your relationship with a teammate? Are you not going to block for Tom Brady because he voted for Donald Trump? Are you not going to think Tiger Woods is the greatest golfer that we've ever seen in our generation because he probably voted for Donald Trump? Like, I'm not going to feel that kind of way. I mean, Donald Trump does a really good job, I think, of using sports, especially the NFL, with his anthem thing, to divide. I mean, he feels a certain kind of way, and that's it. Which, hey, the people who agree with the protests feel a certain kind of way, and that's it too. So, but it just drives this further wedge between everybody, and it just sucks, you know? Then you get the people that are just like I wish that there wasn't politics in sports. Well, I mean, yes and no. In this day and age, it's kind of unavoidable because our options in 2016 were so garbage. Our options were so bad that I feel like something along these lines would be happening no matter who won, to some degree. I do agree that like I was saying, that ESPN doesn't really go towards the middle very much. But fact is to me that a lot of athletes, especially in the most popular sports, are African American, and they especially feel a certain kind of way about the tone And I think a lot of it comes back to the Charlottesville with the people on both sides thing. I wanted to touch on real quick, not to get too political because that's not what we do here, but it's why we call it Might Be Sports. It might be. Mm-hmm. Nike is all over the place right now today. Nike. Colin Kaepernick back. He's back in the news. It's like he never left.
Well, just to like interject real quick.
Yeah, no.
Here's the perfect example. You just said sometimes politics and sports are unavoidable.
Right.
And when people say, I wish they would just talk sports, sometimes you can't. This particular thing, and you got to take it on a case-by-case basis. This thing with Tiger Woods, it was avoidable.
Absolutely
Didn't
avoidable.
have to be talked about.
Yes.
And when Max Kellerman goes on his show and he literally says he's angry about this, nothing comment. That's when politics and sports came together. They didn't have to.
Right.
And ESPN, it's hurting their brand when they do that. When you allow your talent to reach like that, people just want to hear sports. Sometimes, like you said, unavoidable. This was avoidable.
I
now,
agree.
The Colin Kaepernick thing, talk about that with Nike. This is a situation where I understand where it interjects. It makes sense.
So the thing with this to me, and I 1,000% agree that the Tiger Woods thing could have and should have been avoidable, just for the record. This thing with Nike and Colin Kaepernick, it was revealed over the weekend that Colin Kaepernick, along with 6 other athletes, including, I think, Serena Williams, Odell Beckham Jr., and others, are the new quote-unquote face of the 30-year anniversary of the Just Do It slogan, right? They have this whole new marketing thing, but it was revealed that Colin Kaepernick was a part of that team. And bunch of outrage, obviously, hot button topic. And the thing that made me laugh today, right, is that the NFL refuses to pay Colin Kaepernick. The NFL pays Nike. Nike pays Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, it is weird how that works out.
Like, to me, it's crazy. And Colin Kaepernick has this whole thing with the NFL going on where it just got denied that the NFL wanted to throw out the case of collusion to keep him out of the league. And it was denied. So that's going to happen, that trial or whatever. And I'm very interested about that. Because politics did involve this. And a lot of people say that Colin Kaepernick was a garbage quarterback and he's not playing in the league because he's terrible. We've listed a couple quarterbacks just in this episode today that I feel like he's better than. I think he's better than Dak Prescott. I think he's better than Mitch Trubisky. I think he's better than Jay Cutler, not that he's playing anymore. Brock Osweiler. Joe Flacco. Old-ass Ben Roethlisberger. I think
right now he would be, well, it depends on how you look at it. Right now, the trend is moving away from running quarterbacks.
Agreed.
All you're seeing is these guys getting hurt. So the last full season Colin Kaepernick played, the argument could be made, he was far and away. It wasn't even close. The best running quarterback in the league. He was also one of the worst quarterbacks in the league when it came to strictly passing the ball.
Pocket passing, yeah.
Very inaccurate. He compared favorably with guys like I just mentioned, like Mike Glennon. That is where the problem is. And when you add the protest to that, no one wants him to be their starting quarterback, the face of the franchise. It's too hot to touch.
If we took...
then once you're a backup, well, you're taking on a lot for a backup quarterback who might never play, who might not improve your team, and it could bring the whole team down, just being what he is.
Not that you could remove the anthem situation from this mix, but hypothetically speaking, if you could, if kneeling wasn't a thing, if none of this was happening, we wouldn't be having this conversation, in my opinion. At least having him in the league. And I think that's the problem. That's the problem. Because it's not against the rules for him to do what he did. It's not against the collective bargaining agreement. He did nothing, quote unquote, wrong by league standards. They would prefer that he did something different, but he didn't do anything. It's not a suspendable offense. It's not anything like that. And that's where the problem is, because even if he's not better than 10 starters in this league, I guarantee he's better than most backups. So if, hypothetically speaking, we could remove this Anthem situation from this equation, I don't think we'd be having this conversation. And I think I think he'd still be in the league.
100%. Yeah. And I've always said, like, I'm not going to be coaching an NFL team anytime soon, but I feel like, if I had like fantasy control over a team, I want as my backup quarterback a running quarterback, because they seem to do well in the short term.
Right.
Eventually teams adjust to them, and that's how. That literally could be what happened with Dak Prescott. That's what happened with Vince Young.
Yeah.
Mike Vick. He always seemed to have good years, bad years, good years, bad years. When they would underestimate him is when he'd do well.
Yes.
When they really game planned for him, he would falter.
Right.
So, as a backup quarterback, I want a guy like Colin Kaepernick.
Mix it up.
If Carson Wentz, because I wanted them to sign him last year. This was before the lawsuit stuff. That kind of, muddies the water a little bit. But if Carson Wentz goes down and you bring in an athletic talent like Colin Kaepernick and you give him like a vanilla offense where, he's not really an accurate passer.
Right.
You just, dink and dunk stuff to the running back, the tight end, and have him just run wild.
Yeah.
That would be hard to defend because teams have 1 week to prepare for that. They didn't know they were facing Colin Kaepernick before the season started. They didn't have a game plan in mind for him.
Right.
You could win some games with that. So in that respect, I think it makes sense. Now, the longer he's out of the league, at what point there's not a whole lot of examples of guys like quarterbacks in their prime that just leave for 2 years.
Yeah.
It wasn't his choice, but come back and excel.
I don't think he's going to play professional football again.
And again, with the
It's too late
lawsuit,
for
now it makes it tough.
Yeah.
I think this thing has gotten blown way too big.
Because I personally think he's going to win this lawsuit
I think
against the
he
NFL.
would have gotten a job if it became too big a story.
It did.
I think he said too much. He did too much.
And I think that the pig socks and the Castro shirt and stuff really pushed it in the wrong direction.
And that's big. That's
It's big.
pretty hardcore.
I mean, I think that it's just like the Tiger thing though too. The media created the story and made it way bigger because they only a couple times did they actually talk about why he was doing it. It was always just, oh, look who else is doing it. Oh, look what this guy started. And that's why I think you have so many people out there that have more of a problem with how he's protesting than what he actually is protesting. And to me, that's the sad part. I get that you want to respect the flag, but I said this on Might Be News last season, and I stand by it. I can't imagine what the flag stands for a veteran that went and fought for our country and lost a part of themselves or lost somebody that they cared about over there. I also can't imagine what that flag means to a parent who lost a child to police killing. I can't imagine what that flag stands for anyone else besides myself, right? Because it's just this big thing. It's this thing. So I don't know. There's no right or wrong to me in this situation, but I do believe that what he's standing up for is a just cause, and he's put his money where his mouth is. That's really all I can say. He's put his money where he's done a lot of donating and a lot of different things. But anyway, we're gonna do the go to the week. Ready for that? We did this segment last week. We're gonna do it every week where we talk about the greatest of all time. This week
of the week.
The greatest of all time
of the week. What do you got this week, Kevin Reevy?
I'm already going to change the format here. I wanted to talk about this, and the only way I could really maneuver it in was to do it in this segment. So I'm doing like the WOT, the worst of all time. I'm going to switch it up.
Yes.
And all right, just real quick when I get this out. I just read a story on my phone how the Bills and LaShawn McCoy, they're feeling really optimistic that he's not going to get suspended this year. So that's great news for the Bills fans and LaShawn McCoy, except for the fact that, he allegedly had his buddy go up and beat up his girlfriend.
Did you see those pictures?
Yes.
Horrible.
We all saw the pictures, but we all forget.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about it anymore.
I think the attention span of the average American is just like 3.9 seconds.
It's insane. And again, we can't say allegedly enough.
Yeah.
But there are reports, or there is suspicion out there that he had one of his friends go over, rough up his girlfriend, steal some jewelry, basically try to intimidate her to get her out of his house prior to a legal proceeding that was going to solve all these things. So, and it seems, I can see, it does not seem like a random event. Like these suspicions seem rock solid.
Pretty spot on, yeah.
So, I mean, but, great news, Bills fans. LaShawn McCoy looks like he's not going to be suspended.
He's suiting up.
And from what I'm hearing, and it makes sense, the NFL takes a long time to investigate these things, sometimes up to a year. You look at, things coming back. It takes a long time. The Buccaneers quarterback, why is his name escaping me right now?
Jameis Winston?
Jameis Winston. The incident with him was a while ago.
Yes.
Zeke,
he just keeps he seems to keep getting in trouble, though, Jameis Winston.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. And again, but it takes a long time. Zeke's thing, it took about a year.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing this is going to take about a year, but it's just weird. It's gross. I don't understand. I mean, all right, let it play out. I'm all for the fair proceedings of the law, and I love people getting due process.
It's the headline.
Whether it's in the law or at their job, cool.
Right.
That doesn't mean we can't talk about it.
Right.
Doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it. We need to be talking about this more.
I agree.
We're worried about Tiger Woods just trying to avoid a question than we are about this guy potentially almost had his girlfriend killed.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Allegedly. Right. It's crazy.
And if you do a deep dive on LaShawn McCoy's past, all he does is get away with shit.
Right.
It's
No,
insane.
you're right. You're right. I remember he had like some sort of like crazy sex party or something here in Philly for like his birthday or something. It was like girls only and shit. Something. I don't even know. Allegedly, I guess.
He's gotten away with so much. If you do a deep dive, everyone just Google it. There's too much to get into.
Yeah.
It's insane what he's gotten away with. And I'm just, there's not enough being talked about.
I agree.
Where's the investigative reporting? Or is everybody just worried about Tiger Woods comments and
burning your Nikes?
So that's, oh yeah, who's the new? Yeah, it's all Colin Kaepernick with Nike and Tiger talking about Trump, but where's the investigative reporting?
Right.
Like, where's the meat and potatoes stuff? It's just what you could get into this. Like, you could figure this out. I'm sure the NFL is knee deep in trying to figure out what happened with this, but what's stopping anyone else?
Right.
Like, I mean, it's not my job, but I would imagine, like, if I worked at a newspaper in Buffalo, get on it. This is big. Do your job.
Right.
It's been too long. It's been about a month, maybe longer.
There should be more facts.
There should be more.
Yeah.
So that's my wote.
Wote. So my goat of the week. We talked about Doug Peterson a little bit ago and how he got a little mouthy with some reporters this week. But he came out apparently today and more or less apologized for it. But his problem was that NFL insider Ian Rappaport broke the story that he was declaring Foles the starter for week 1 before he had the chance to talk to Carson Wentz and Nick Foles about it. So I would have been mad too. And but I appreciate the fact that he came out today a lot calmer, back to being, Doug P, high school coach of the year 2 years ago or whatever. I'm a Doug P guy. I just love the guy. I think he's great. I think he keeps his team level-headed with all the backlash from the different political things with not going to the White House, with the Malcolm Jenkins "you're not listening" stuff, and everything else that's been going on, I think that he keeps his team together. He's the goat of the week. That's that for me.
Yeah, I think for all the media, like sometimes reporters get on players and coaches for being overly sensitive. The local media here in Philly, way oversensitive about this stuff. We talked about it earlier. Doug was right.
Yeah.
He was right on point with this.
I agree. Kevin Reevy, great show this week. Again, shout out to our guest this week, Andrew Dececco. Check us out on nbnnetwork.com. We're on SoundCloud. We're on iTunes podcasts. Make sure you check out all the great shows on this network. Might Be News, Relatable Radio, and a all-new episode of the Novak and Franz show tomorrow. So check that out. Again, peace out, Kevin. Great job this week.
It's been fun.
We'll see you guys next week. Go Birds.
See ya.